Welcome to the Gluck Radio Podcast. I am Dr. Errol Gluck, executive life coach and master problem solver. Today, we're here with the one and only Sarah Burge. She's known in the tabloids as the human Barbie. She has spent over £500,000, around $800,000 on plastic surgery, and has become infamous for exposing her young daughters to everything from pole dancing to Botox. The media has torn her apart, but what's her side of the story? She's a consultant to major plastic surgeons around the world, and she's an advocate for the victims of domestic violence. There is certainly more to her story than boobs and Botox. This interview was conducted over Skype. She lives in England. This is Sarah Burge.
Hello.
Hi, Sarah.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
Can you see me?
I could see you.
Oh, you can see me. I didn't think. Good God, thank God I've got a bit of makeup on then.
Now, you definitely look like Barbie. I don't look like Ken, but...
Well, you look better than Ann Cooper, put it that way.
This is my Friday look. So, Sarah, we're fascinated by your story. I'm glad to actually have you here. I love the fact that we could do this from all over the world. So, let me just jump in, okay?
Well,
Sarah,
jump in.
You're known as Barbie in the tabloids. Okay, you've spent countless money, over $500,000. I believe it's British pounds in the plastic surgery.
Well, that's the value of surgery.
Right. And I'm sure there's ongoing surgery, right?
Yeah. So,
Right.
Like the fourth bridge.
So there's a story behind this, and here's where I want to start. Okay. Your dad was a police chief, what I know, and I know that you went to Catholic school where the nuns were abusive. Now, how did we go from a father who's a police chief, abusive nuns, into be highly sexualized? How'd that happen?
Well, into being a bunny girl, you mean?
Oh, a bunny girl, but at what point in your life did you actually feel yourself sexualized? Because the bunny girl was at what age?
Oh, gosh, I was an underage bunny girl. I sort of snuffled my way in there. I was 17 when I started as an underage bunny girl. You had to be 18, but back then they couldn't do the checks that they do now. And I got in there and I just carried on. And I basically went on the rampage with all the rich and famous. I guess that's what I basically set out to do.
Okay, so before you were a bunny girl, you obviously were experimenting somewhat with your sexuality. At what age did that happen?
What, when I first had sex?
Yes.
Oh, God, I have first had sex with my now husband, so I suppose that makes a bit of sense. I suppose it makes it okay. I was 14.
You were 14 years old. Whether that makes it okay, we're going to have that discussion a little bit later on. Okay. He was how old? How old was he, by the way?
He was the same age as me.
And so you both were 14 years old. Right, well, that just makes you teenagers. Okay, so you're a Playboy bunny. You're 17 years old, and what was the reason for your choice to be a Playboy bunny?
Oh, I just wanted to work in a glamorous sort of industry, I guess, and I thought to myself, I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, back then I was a complete and utter bimbo. I was an airheaded blonde bimbo, and I basically just sort of like got by on the way that I looked, and that was open to a job like that. So I decided to basically just go and have an interview or audition, as it was, and I happened to get in. So I started a few weeks later, not as a croupier, by the way, because I was crap at maths. It was a waitress. So that's what I did.
Did you meet Hugh Hefner, by the way?
Oh, yes. A bit of hanky-panky went on there.
Oh, so you and Hugh, and how old was he at the time?
Oh, God, don't ask.
Oh, no, I just asked, so you need to say.
I've no idea. I'm no good at ages.
Obviously, well, that's an interesting point. You're no good at ages, and yet you want to be eternally young, right?
Well, I don't know. Well, I don't want to be eternally young. It's a case of feeling comfortable in your own skin and with how you are in yourself. And I feel more youthful on the inside when I look more youthful on the outside. So it's quite simple to me, really.
Okay, well, I buy that. But going back to Hugh Hefner, because this is interesting. Was it just sex, or was there something emotional there? I mean, did you have a fling or a relationship?
There's nothing emotional from either side, to be honest. I mean, that's all in my autobiography, but I'll leave you to read that.
Oh, no, I read your autobiography. Trust me, you'll hear it. All right. So having sex without emotions per se is something that was definitely a part of your past. Is that something that you would recommend to your children?
Oh God, absolutely not. I mean, all girls, I teach them to be independent young women, and they've all grown up to, well, apart from the little one, of course, to be very successful in life. I mean, I teach them completely different values to I supposedly had back then myself. I mean, I was one of these people that sort of like lived on the edge. I liked a bit of danger. I liked to experiment with different things, and sort of go out with lots of different people because that's the way I was. But in fact, my children are all very different.
And they're different because you raised them different, or they simply became different because that's who they were?
Well, they've all been raised slightly differently because they're from 3 different fathers. So every 10 years, so they're 10 years apart as well. But so they've all had different experiences throughout their life. And I suppose that's molded them to the people that they've become today, I guess. But yeah, they've all sort of like followed slightly different career paths, although fairly glamorous as well. But they're all very educated and articulate and talented and fabulous young ladies.
You are the modern day Barbie girl. Now, I saw pictures of you before that you were savagely beaten up, and you were really quite attractive, as you are now. How Fasal is the pseudonym we're giving to the person who beat you up. Could you tell me the story about Fasal? How did you get involved with him? I believe you were married at the time.
Yeah, I was married, and I was basically bored in my relationship, and I then went and worked in a casino part-time, which is where I met this man, and there was an instant attraction there, I suppose, because he was from a different culture to myself, and I found that rather appealing anyway, sort of opposites attract, so to say.
What culture was that? What culture was Fasal from?
He was an Arab.
He was Arab, okay, great.
Yeah. And I met him, and we went out and we had a couple of dates, and it was like an instant attraction, and I guess we fell in love with each other. And but what he found attractive in me then, sort of once he sort of got his claws into me, he found unattractive because he wanted to change me. So all of a sudden he liked me sort of like, he was instantly attracted to me looking glamorous and pretty and wearing makeup, short skirts, high heels, whatever the case may be. All of a sudden he wanted to cover me up, strip me of my identity, my makeup and everything else, and I wasn't having it. And sort of like in a mad, enraged, jealous, enraged frenzy one night, he literally beat me to a pulp and destroyed my face. I mean, he broke my cheekbones, my jaw, my eye sockets. He slashed me with scissors. He jumped on my face and punctured my lungs, everything. So, I mean, he literally, in the space of a couple of hours, destroyed the way I looked.
Sarah, that is, it's a tragedy that no one should ever have to go through. But I'm wondering, Sarah, this type of animal, and I'm going to call him an animal because that's what people who do these things are called, he didn't show any of this aggression prior. He didn't show that he was building up to this point. You didn't sense a warning that this guy is a nut?
Not to that extent. I mean, a lot of people do have tempers, but I suppose you tend to sort of overlook it and think, oh, well, it'll be better next time. And I was of that impression as well, and always thought that things would improve, but they never really did. In fact, they just got worse.
I mean, you clearly had an abused wife syndrome where you overlooked a lot, even though he wasn't your husband. You were bored with your husband. Was there any particular reason why you just didn't divorce your husband at that point?
Well, I should have done. I mean, I should have divorced him, but he was actually probably one of the nicest men that I've ever had and been fortunate enough to know. And he was fabulous with my daughter as well. So I feel rather guilty for sort of like going into another relationship whilst I was still married to him anyway. But hey, things happen, don't they? And I equally did find him boring. And although he was very creative and a talented man, he didn't make the most of himself, and his ambitions and everything was just shoved to the side. And I didn't like to see that, and it frustrated me because I'm not that type of person. Because I'm a go-getter, I will sort of like go and get what I really want in life. But I went and got the wrong man, that's for sure.
Sarah, what made me get to the edge of my seat is why, when this man beat you into an inch of your life, and I saw the pictures, they were horrific. It looked like you were hit by a bus. And then you go back to him. What's up with that?
Well, I mean, I was a victim of domestic abuse, obviously, for a long time. And anyone who's a victim and a survivor of domestic abuse will clearly understand where I'm coming from. You always think people are going to change, but I actually went back to him.
I'm confused, Sarah. So straight, is it domestic abuse? Your husband never treated you like this. So
No, he didn't. No. But I then went and lived on my own. After that beating, I went and lived on my own with my daughter. And then this man gradually crept back into my life again, feeling very, very guilty, saying it's never going to happen. But my looks were destroyed at this time. Now, I didn't have any money. I got ill, and in fact I was diagnosed with having multiple sclerosis, but which turned out to be a wrong diagnosis many years later. So I was only given like seven years or whatever years to live. And I thought to myself, hey, Christ, I've got nothing. He's got no money. I haven't got any looks. I haven't got anybody. And this man then came back into my life, and he said, well, I'll take care of you. I'll look after you. And hopefully we can salvage everything that was lost and sort of like get on the path to recovery and have some sort of relationship. So, I mean, whether that's right or wrong, and whether people might view it slightly differently, but I sort of didn't have anywhere else to go, so that was my choosing. That's what I did.
Sarah, I'm completely not judging you, but what advice would you give any woman who was beaten savagely or even emotionally abused by their person who they're with? What advice would you give them right at this moment?
Well, the advice that I'll give them now is obviously we have a lot of refuge centres which we can turn to, which I didn't have back in those days. Now you're going back to like the 1980s, so we didn't have the services and the people to turn to for help back then like we do now. I would never recommend anyone to sort of like go back to a former abusive partner. No, of course I wouldn't do that. But I also wouldn't recommend in a moment of madness to either walk out on someone like that either, because that can have detrimental consequences in itself. You have to do things very methodically and very carefully. And you do have to contact the appropriate people with the correct resources in order to help you as well. So you have to get in touch with the police, you have to get in touch with the social services and everybody else who can sort of come together to help you properly, because no doubt a lot of people do have children, and obviously they're the most important little people that you need to look after as well.
Sarah, you had a child with you at that time, correct?
Yes, I did. Yes.
And how did the person we're going to call Fasal, how did he treat your child?
Oh God! I mean, he was pretty dismissive of her, really. He made nasty comments, but he had a daughter of his own as well, and he always put his own child first, which a lot of people in sort of like other that other relations, it's always a bit of a problem with stepchildren and children from other marriages, etc. He used to gnaw away at her, sort of like put her down and stuff like that. But I would never allow it. I would always come to her defense. And
Sarah, if he put her down and he gnawed at her, apparently you did allow it. And what I'm asking you is, were you under the spell, as it were? Were you so in love or so enamored that you actually allowed him, even though it appears that you tried to limit the abuse, but apparently the abuse to your daughter actually happened?
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's no good me just walking out the door with nowhere to go, and the bigger picture is having absolutely nothing. It was far better for me to take control of the situation and find a way out, which is eventually what I did. But although it was many years later, I would then take charge of my own daughter, and sort of like look after her independently away from him. So I mean, he was out a lot of the time anyway. And believe you me, I make no excuses for myself. I make no excuses. There are millions of people in the same situation as what I was in back then.
Now, how many years were you with Faisal?
Probably, well, it was over 10 years, that's for sure.
It was over 10 years. So you and your daughter absorbed a tremendous amount of abuse. During that 10-year period, did you reach out to see what your options were? I don't know what was going on in England at the time, but I imagine that there were other organizations that you could have gone to that would have helped you.
You start off with the police. You start off with the police, and the police were called many times, and they're just simply powerless to do anything with regards to domestic abuse back then. I mean, now they do have more powers, obviously, but back then they didn't have the powers then, and it was just caused a disturbance, and nothing was actually done, and the alarms were never raised. It's only when someone finally gets killed where they actually intervene and do something. By that time, it's all too late.
Did he, by the way, in his regret for what he did he begin to pay for the plastic surgeries? Is that how you managed to achieve the beauty that you have now?
Thank you for the compliment. But no, I decided to, I mean, obviously I was a good looking girl, and I know what it's like to look really good, and I equally know what it's like to look really horrendous, like a monster, and I know which one I would choose. But the fact remains that I decided to throw the bimbo image to the wayside, and I took myself back to school, and I became qualified. I started off doing beauty therapy, and I found that boring. I then went into doing paracle procedures and other stuff.
Sarah, I heard that you went to embalming school. Tell me about that. How did we go from Playboy Bunny to embalming?
Well, that all came about, and that was rather a rash decision, actually, that I did. And that was following my grandparents dying many years ago. And I went to the chapel of rest and the mortuary to obviously pay my last respects and say goodbye to the people that were I loved very, very much in my life. And I was absolutely shocked and horrified to see sort of like how they made them up and they just made them look like some sort of like Chucky doll, you know. It was just hideous. And I thought, well, there's no dignity and respect here. What the hell is going on? And so I went into sort of like dead bodies. So it wasn't for very, very long. I just went locally to the local funeral parlors and said, well, you know, I'm very good at doing makeup and such like, and would you ever require my services? And that's what happened, really. But it was only short-lived.
Now, explain to me your relationship with plastic surgeons. Apparently, you represent a number of them. Even the word at one point ambassador was used. Is this a way of which you make a living? Tell me a little bit about that.
I mean, I operate now one of the largest referral services throughout the world to the world leaders in plastic and reconstructive surgery. And it's literally been on my ventures throughout the world to know all these plastic surgeons And so people sort of like contact me following TV, radio appearances or whatever, and reach out to me continuously. I mean, I get thousands of emails every year from people who are dissatisfied with the way that they look, whether it be from either out of sheer vanity or and wanting to change something about themselves, or perhaps they've been beaten to a pulp by a former partner, or disfigured through accident or disease, whatever. And I channel them to the right surgeon, because surgeons, reconstructive surgeons, they specialize in different areas. So I know exactly where to place them, basically. So I help them much in the same way as what I was helped all those years ago with the specialists that put me back together.
Sarah, one of the things that became controversial is the way in which you introduced your children into the world of plastic surgery, that at a very young age you gave a gift certificate to your child that when she hits 18 that she could have her breast augmented. Why would you even think about that to a young child?
Well, I didn't think about that. That's where the media have got everything and it all twisted up and back to front and gobbledygook.
Good. I mean, so everyone's going to listen to this broadcast. So tell us what actually did happen.
Oh, God, honest to God, that has been absolutely sensationalized throughout the press till, God, it's almost milked to death. I mean, it's just...
1, 2, 3, here's the real story. Sarah, tell it to me.
It's got so boring. I mean, to be honest, these vouchers are given in lieu of payment to me from surgeons throughout the world. It's not ethical to receive payment to refer someone to a plastic surgeon. So they don't pay me. They give me vouchers in lieu of payment. Okay. So these vouchers I bank, which I get for free, and I cash them in and I bank them for my children. So it's not to use for plastic surgery at all. It's actually to bank for money to put my children to and make them become the professionals they want to become. I mean, my little girl.
Sarah, I'm totally confused. You're going to have to help me with this.
You're not confused. You're pretending to be confused.
Well, no. Listen, I'm confused. If one cannot get a referral fee, a monetary referral fee for sending someone to a plastic surgeon, and we know everyone gets referral fees for very many things, and they're giving you vouchers that could turn into cash, isn't that the same thing?
Well, yes, it is, but it's a different way of doing things. Of course, it is a similar sort of thing. But even if they were to give me cash, I'd be still banking it to help my children out for when they're older. It's not for plastic surgery. It's only because I get given them for free. So it makes perfect sense.
Do you believe that every single person should have plastic surgery?
Well, it depends what they want it for. I don't believe anyone should be dissatisfied with the way that they look, and because obviously it affects them inside as well and their personality, and everyone should follow the path that they want to follow. And I don't think anyone should be judgmental on anybody who wishes to have plastic surgery.
Sarah, I am completely pro plastic surgery, but at what point does one not accept the fact that one ages and that you're not going to look as beautiful as you are right now at 60, 70, 80, 90, and 100. See, I made you live to 100, Sarah.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're
Hopefully
welcome.
a bit long.
You're welcome. Anything else you need, the Red Sea party, just ask.
You see, this is where people get me so wrong, Errol. I mean, people naturally assume that, I'm scared of aging. I'm embracing getting older. Everybody wants to grow old.
Sarah, you're embracing getting older? There's more plastic in you than there is in my cup that I'm drinking water out of. How are you embracing getting older?
I'm embracing getting old because everybody wants to get old. Otherwise, the alternative is death, isn't it? So, of course, we all want to get old. I mean,
Sarah, you're lovely, but embracing means accepting. You're fighting it tooth and nail. You got a bat. You're beating your age backwards.
It's a big part of my business. If I didn't look good, then I wouldn't be able to refer people to the correct surgeons. I'm a walking advocate for the surgery. I mean, who would trust my judgment if I look like a minger? I mean, let's get real
so
here.
Sarah, right now I'm asking every one of the 2 million listeners to shut your radio off. This is just between me and you. This is just about business. This is if you were able to have $20 million in the bank, you didn't need business, you wouldn't still be doing this?
Look, I mean, I've got a plastic surgery fund, but I'm not using it to have loads of
That's not my
plastic
question,
surgery.
Sarah. My question is you mentioned it was business. So if you had all the money in the world, would you still be as obsessed with plastic surgery as you are now?
What makes you think I'm obsessed with plastic surgery? I'm obsessed with looking as good as possible for as long as possible. It doesn't necessarily mean
Hold it.
plastic surgery.
You asked me a great question. I love great questions. What makes me think that you're obsessed with plastic surgery? Sarah, just take a couple of minutes and name me the different plastic surgeries you've had within the last 10 years
Well,
and continue
I've had
to have.
loads, but that is
No, just say what they are.
because I've had to have my face reconstructed. And my last operation was last year, where I had to wait until I was older before my face went a little bit baggy. And I say that very, very slightly in order to disguise the last scarring on my face, which was when I was slashed from all those years ago, because it couldn't be disguised any other way until my face sort of went a bit baggy and it was disguised in my jawline. And that was the last bit of surgery that I had. So, I mean, it's all relevant and it stems from that former beating. So let's set the record straight here. I mean, yes, I do want to maintain my now somewhat different appearance, because
And does that
that's
require a
what's
lot
been
of plastic surgery?
Sorry?
Does that require a good deal of plastic surgery?
Well, not to maintain it. I can do a lot of stuff myself. I do my own Botox, I do my own fillers, I do my own dermabrasion. I can, because I'm qualified in order to do that. And so I can maintain a lot of the stuff myself. But plastic surgery, I will probably have when I think is deemed necessary. I mean, I'm not the vain little cow that people think. I don't get up every day and stare at myself in the mirror. I'm too busy running a business, being a mum, looking after my kids, doing loads of different stuff. I barely have time. Like every other school mum, I put on an old trackie and and a baseball cap and do the morning school run. I mean, I don't stand in the mirror sort of like preening and poking around myself all day.
I didn't think you stood in the mirror. I thought that you waited for everyone else to tell you how beautiful you were. I wasn't thinking you were standing in the mirror. Sarah, let me ask you a question. Your children obviously went through hell with you. Tell me how they're doing.
They haven't been through hell with me. That's absolute
10 years,
rubbish.
with facade.
As I said, I've got 3 children by 3 different men. So, I mean, and they're extremely successful. My older girl, she's a fashion designer. She's starting up her own brand of clothing. My middle one is a professional dancer. And my little one, well, she's little Poppy, and she travels all over the world with me and enjoys doing things that other kids only simply dream about. We're very fortunate in that respect. She does modeling, and she's also a bit of a computer geek as well. So she's got a brain, and we do lots of stuff. So they're all doing great. Thank you very much.
I'm really thrilled to death because I have 2 children and they mean the world to me. Sarah, I'm also fascinated by this. I have the opportunity to see the interview with Anderson Cooper, but it seemed to be quite a little stir. What really happened? Is Anderson?
Oh God, I call it the Great Anderson Cooper stitch up. The little man with a big gob. I mean, it was so orchestrated.
Well, hold it. I got to get the British words right. A little man with a big what?
With a big gob.
Okay, got it. Okay. Continue.
Yeah, a little man with a big gob. Maybe he's got little man syndrome or something. That's why he decided to pick on me that day. And
so why was he picking on you?
Sorry?
Why was this little man picking on you?
Well, I don't know, because his researchers wanted me to go on his show for 2 years, and I always refused for a start, unless I was doing something else. And as it happens, I was filming our reality show, and it started off in New York. So when word got out that we were doing that, he then invited me on his show yet again. So I thought, hey ho, I'm over in New York anyway, so that's fine. But as it happened, all our flights had to be rearranged and everything because he wanted me over there a few days earlier. So that's what we did. We decided to go over there. The researchers took all the notes. They knew my backstory. They knew the sensationalism and the truth behind the hype. And they said, no, it's not going to be anything like that. And come on, we want you to promote your book, The £500,000 Girl, my autobiography. And we want you to talk about the reality show that you're doing. I said, I thought that's fine. So we went out there and went on set. I was mic'd up. Poppy, my 8-year-old, was mic'd up because she was asked to go on as well. And then he introduced himself to me. And then all of a sudden, he took himself off to the other side of the studio, which I thought rather bizarre. And he sort of like was jumping up and down behind the auto cue. And what I didn't realize was, even to the point where he decided to call me dreadful, he was reading it off the auto cue, which I found out only after I got off set. And from the second he opened his mouth to ask me a question, he was just firing a volley of abuse at me. He didn't let me answer the questions. And when I did, he interrupted. And obviously that was taken into the editing suite, which virtually gouged my eyes out. And then obviously that got produced and aired. But I mean, sensible people did actually see through that, and I got thousands of emails in support of me and everything else that I do, because the majority of people know exactly what I'm about anyway. Because unfortunately, it's always the crap that makes the headlines, and all the professional interviews that I do sort of like get disguised really and dismissed because of all the rubbish that comes out. And I think that speaks volumes about what TV is turning into these days.
So, Sarah, there's no truth that the Sarah Burge and Anderson Cooper show is going on, right?
What do you mean? Now I'm
that was an attempted joke, darling. Just a joke. That's just, it's the difference between American and British humor. We need to translate this.
I'm still trying to get it.
You're stunned and you said, I didn't know about the show. All right. So,
what was so disgusting, though, Errol, is that my daughter was in floods of tears and he didn't care. And then we had the cameraman afterwards trying to follow us, where I had to push the cameraman out the way, which people were saying, oh, no, she's not very nice because I pushed the cameraman. I was pushing the cameraman to protect my daughter. They were absolutely following us down the street. It was absolutely horrendous. He didn't care. He did not care. And I think that is just taking journalism to a really low level, and it's quite shocking. But what really concerns me is someone of a more placid nature, if that happens to, because it will happen, they will come off a show like that and they will commit suicide. And then what are they going to do? Are they going to rub it all out in the editing suite? I think it's shocking, absolutely shocking.
Obviously, do you think it was possibly done just for publicity on his end?
Well, shame on him for having to use me in order to promote himself, really. I mean, because that's actually what he did, really. So I don't know, but I think he received quite a lot of backlash for it. But since then, I mean, I've been asked to do loads of other TV stuff. I've been involved with producers in America to have my TV show, just lots of stuff. So that's it. That's the way it is. Just spin off it all the time.
Sarah, I really do appreciate the fact that you put it into perspective, and we're going to get Anderson Cooper on a podcast and take him to task for this. Okay? We know secrets about him that no one knows.
Oh, really?
So let me.
The secret came out, I think, right?
I'll tell you. Oh, yeah, sure. So, Sarah, this is a question everyone asks themselves. It's their funeral. People are going up to the podium and talking about them. What do you want people to say about you, about your legacy? What is it you want to leave behind? How do you want to be remembered? And what do you see your destiny as being, or your contribution to this planet?
Well, I mean, my contribution is campaigning against domestic violence, and all the campaigns that I do and all the people that I help all over the world sort of becoming a counsellor, as well as entrusting me to find the right surgeons to rebuild their battered faces and bodies. That is ongoing, and I do that sort of worldwide from people that reach out to me. And I mean, I think this is the direction that I'm heading in most. And I've also vowed that I will never do any other TV appearances that aren't live.
Oh, no. You have to do something one's life. But I will be there by your side, making sure that no one beats you up. But Sarah, let me ask you a question. There are obviously two aspects to everyone's life. And one of the reasons why many women also get bored with husbands, this is your third one. Tony, is 3 a charm, by the way?
Is he what? Sorry?
He's the third husband. Is it true?
He's the third. Yeah, Tony's my third husband.
Are we happy with Tony?
He was my first love.
He was your 14-year-old boyfriend.
He was my 14-year-old lover, yeah.
People, there are hope out there for you who've had sex at 14 to, again, meet the person who you fall in love with.
I've done the whole cycle, haven't I?
So tell me about the relationship between you and Tony.
Oh, I mean, he's absolutely fabulous. I mean, after I split up with the mad Arab, I then got back in touch with him, and we basically sort of met, and that was it. We went and lived on his boat. So I just literally walked out the door and went, taking my kids with me. So that was it.
I just want to go on record, that we want to make sure that everyone who's listening to us understands that there is no culture in which abuse does not take place. And the fact that the man was Arab has nothing to do with the abuse per se. He was not the mad Arab. He was just a mad, insane person. So the fact that he was Arab, I don't want us to associate that with abuse, because there are many, many, many Arab men who treat their wives quite well.
Oh yes, and I know a lot of them. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. That's just my term of phrase.
Okay, no problem. I mean, he was, it's like you could be a crazy Irishman or a crazy Jew.
Can't say the same thing.
That's the one you're speaking to, the crazy Jew. Right, so again, the legacy that you want to be known for is to help women avoid domestic violence. And when we say domestic violence, I'm assuming they were saying violence not only with a spouse, but a boyfriend or anyone who's in their life. If you had to say in 2 sentences what advice you would give a woman, you have 2 sentences. What would those 2 sentences
firstly,
be?
I'm going to interrupt you, Errol, because it's not just women that suffer domestic abuse, it's men as well. And I get loads of letters from men who also suffer.
Yes, but they're all Jewish.
Sorry?
I said they're all Jewish.
Oh, God. No, I mean, literally, you mustn't tolerate anything.
No,
you just mustn't tolerate anything. And also,
you're right. Domestic
seek help,
absolutely.
Because there's a lot of people that out there that can help you now, and you must pick up that phone and make the first stance against it.
All right. So the 2 sentences you're saying is what? Sentence 1, sentence 2. Go for it.
My God, I feel like I'm back at school.
Oh, you are, and I am the principal. I'm bold.
Yeah, God.
Okay. You have 3 sentences. I just gave you 50% more. Go for it.
Always seek help. Don't suffer any abuse, whether it's verbal or physical. Reach out to the appropriate sources straight away, and don't put off tomorrow what you can do today. Good.
You know what? That was great. You passed the test. You got you have an A+, and I'm encouraged to kind of go on.
Straight A's, just like my daughter.
It sounds like you're very, very proud of your children.
Oh my God, yeah, my daughter came home from school and she got all straight A's in everything. So we went out for a special treat. It was great. So fabulous.
So this particular multiple missions that you're on, both to promote plastic surgery, to help women feel good about themselves, to also teach women about domestic violence, is there anything else in the cards for you? Do you have any other ambitions?
Oh gosh, I've just made a record as well. I was approached by
you hold on. Did you say you ate a record?
No, I
because I know you need plastic, Sarah. So I don't know if you're consuming it. No.
Oh my God, you can't understand my accent.
Well, no one understands me even when I speak English. So what was it about the record you did?
I just made a record.
You made a record. Okay, made a record. I thought you ate a record. Okay.
Made a record. Yeah.
Oh, it's early in the morning, Sarah.
Singing.
Okay. Oh, you did. You did. Could you sing me a couple of bars?
I'm not going to sing anything. No, I need the acoustics, No, I was approached by a former boy band member, a guy called Nick Fogarty, who was in the group in the 80s, Academy. I don't know if you remember them. And he's now a musical director. And he wrote this song especially for me, together with former head of A&R Sony Columbia. And they produced this song especially for me, which is quite empowering to other people who want to change their lives, taking obviously all my backstory as their format for this song. So that's what they produced. So that will be going out soon in a press release. So that I'm quite looking forward to that.
So Sarah, everyone's relationship has the tendency to slow down, get bored. They don't reinvent themselves. How do you keep your relationship with Tony fresh so that he doesn't become the next person who is no longer with you?
To bite the dust.
Exactly, to bite the dust.
Well, I because Tony's my manager as well. So, we have a lot in common. He gave up his work, he was in the aluminium business, but because I'm so busy, he put that on the back burner, and he's now become my manager because I actually don't trust many people because they all stitch me up. So I have to have someone I can trust financially and in every way, mentally as well. So I'm very, very fortunate, and we spend a lot of the time together. We spent all our time together. So I think that's healthy for us. It works for us.
So you found the real partner in life. That's wonderful, and I'm glad that there's a wonderful end to the story. Sarah, you have been an incredible guest, and I'm so happy to have you on the show, and I really mean that from the bottom of my heart. I would encourage everyone to visit Sarah's website. It's the sarahburge.co.uk, and while you're doing it, pick up a copy of her book, The £500,000 Girl, on Amazon.com. You really don't want to miss it. Thank you so much for taking your time and speaking to me from across the continent. You were absolutely wonderful. And Anderson Cooper, look out.
Thank you, Errol. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. Bye, Sarah.
Bye.
I had a much different impression than what I first was expecting to encounter. My impression was here was a basically honest person who went through a tremendous amount of abuse, starting very early in her life, that she had problems she didn't get help for. She used the only asset that she really knew, which was her sensuality, sexuality, and her looks. She fell into an abusive relationship, which many women whose only identity and have no real connection to their family fall into. She fell into this brutal hands of this man, and for those, I think that she's been judged. I think the media has really took her to task for trying to restore what was stolen from her. Lots of women who remark that, oh my God, look at this, she's just one big piece of plastic. To me, it's just simply sour grapes. The surgeries was not only to recover her identity, but was also gave her the ability to provide for her children, which in fact she did quite an excellent job. So my feeling is to all her detractors is that, are your children doing as well as her children? Is your self-esteem doing as well as her self-esteem? And the fact that she had to go through ups and downs in life, that is what life is all about. So I feel that the press has, which they normally do, they sensationalized her. I feel that she was not defensive with me, but it was almost felt that it was unusual not to be defensive with someone because most people are attacking her. In fact, I feel she's not only not worthy of attack, but to some degree, She has redeemed her life. She's redeemed her life. I think she adds value. I think the issue of domestic abuse is a very real one. I think the way in which she has sexualized her relationship with her children, I think, is overblown. I think she has a basic balanced perspective. Can she use more help? Anyone who's gone through the type of abuse that she's gone through needs more help than probably she already has. But having said that, when I simply look back at the interview, I see a woman who has started with nothing but her looks and a tremendous amount of abuse, took her looks, tried to capitalize on it, was taken in by someone who knew how to speak to her. She was a victim of domestic violence, and anyone out there who knows anything about it knows that women stay for irrational reasons, and she turned her life around. She turned it around. Whether every single part of what she said was completely true, whether facts were left out, whether or not that some things were, in fact, not a bit distorted, I would tell anyone out there that when you tell a story, I'm sure that's part of your story too. If we knew the truth about anyone, in total, we wouldn't talk to anyone either. What I want you to do is I actually want you to buy her book. What I want you to do is I want you to give her a chance and to realize when you look in your life and you see the ups and downs of your life, you ask yourself, were you able to take all the trauma and actually make a recovery? This woman is not a bitter woman. This woman has gone through a lot, and she's not filled with hate. And anyone who's filled with hate and criticism towards her, I think should really look at themselves. I am Dr. Errol Gluck, and remember, to every single problem there is a solution. I am your problem solver. Go to our website at www.glucksolutions.org, or actually give me a call, 212-599-3195. This is gluckradio.com. Like us on Facebook. Tell your friends. Till next time.